Let us start with some level setting with definitions. We think about the terms diversity, the terms inclusion, and a lot of fun stuff. I like to start with a very broad but very definitive, that's a good oxymoron sentence there, broad but definitive sentence. And when I say diversity, I like to say it's the many similarities and differences between people. You might have seen some other more specific conversations, definitions, but when I think about diversity, when I started playing around in this space a few years ago-ish, just simply the similarities and differences between humans. Done. So we often hear diversity and inclusion. I love this sign here. What does inclusion mean? Inclusion is a place with a culture of respect, collaboration, and connectedness for everybody. So it's kind of a progression, if you will. Diversity is saying, hey y'all, come on in. Inclusion is, we want to respect you and your differences that you're bringing. But what you're also starting to see, and this is where it really hits you as a consciously inclusive leader, is the concept of belonging. Anyone ever heard of that term? Belonging at work? Belonging? Yeah, I assume you have. All the cool people understand that concept. Because it really is the next progression of when we talk about diversity and inclusion. Belonging is the feeling a person has where they are safe and welcome to be their authentic selves at work. And I love that definition, authentic selves at work. Because these are about the organization, Case Universal. This is about the employee, the team member, who says, you know what? Yeah, I do belong here. And how do we make someone feel that they belong here? By being respectful to them, by allowing them to be more welcome. This is a safe space. And how do you do that? By being a consciously inclusive leader. So that's kind of the definition part of our conversation. Questions, thoughts, different perspectives. This is meant to be interactive, not just the Steve show. No, Steve, it's great. Okay, thank you. Sounds like we're good. We'll move on to kind of that's the level setting. Now let's go ahead and talk about, all right, Steve keeps saying consciously inclusive. What on earth is he talking about? So what do you think? What do you think I mean when I say being consciously inclusive? Whoever.
Conscious competence.
Conscious competence.
Inclusive dialogue, the right language, specifically the right type of words.
Awesome.
And listening.
All of the above, yes, and? I heard
being aware.
Being aware, absolutely. What else?
Non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental, great phrase.
Inviting a number of people from a broad spectrum into the discussion or meeting.
Making sure that we have those differing opinions, a broad perspective. I like that. So I like that these are all absolutely correct and all great concepts as we think about being consciously inclusive, and that's kind of a lot of them are conscious inclusion in action. I like the working definition. Being consciously inclusive is when you make a deliberate or conscious effort to seek out ideas, perspectives, and experiences that differ from the majority and or your own. So I think that encompasses a heck of a lot of what y'all said, which is perfect. But yeah, but especially that deliberate part of making sure that I'm including others around me and not disenfranchising folks based upon insert demographic stuff here. So it's interesting because there's a couple words that I want to play around with. Specifically the ones consciously inclusive. And when we think about that, it's really saying the opposite means unconsciously exclusive. Think about that. So to be consciously inclusive is the direct opposite of unconsciously exclusive. So what we're doing here is now to start thinking about our unconsciousness. How our little heads working in the background that we don't know. Make sense? Okay. And by our unconscious mind, maybe excluding others from insert whatever group, team, dynamic here. So that's why I want to play around with this. Fact. As a human, we receive 11 million bits of information every moment. I love this graphic, by the way. It just so aligns with your brand. But yeah, 11 million bits of information every moment. Where's that coming from?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, such as what?
Vision, smell, hearing.
Yep. Right. So there's all these cones in your eyes that are picking up all this data right now. There's little cilia and nerve endings in your ears that are hearing me babble and all this stuff that's going on. Every nerve ending in your entire being, everything is sending data to your brain. 11 million bits any second. Now, the unconscious mind can only manage 40 bits. Whoa, think about that. Cognitive science has shown us that we're getting 11 million. We can only consciously deal with 40. So the gap, the 99.999996% of the data we're receiving is being managed by our unconsciousness. most of the data you're getting, you're not even thinking about until it hits that 40 bits. Okay, what? 99.999996. That's crazy. Anyone here have a computer?
Yeah.
Do you have an operating system on that computer?
Yeah.
This is all the stuff going on in the background that you have no idea what's happening. Same idea with your head. So the challenge as humans is that we have all these processes that are going on. Anyone here ever sit on a low-cost airline where you don't pick your seat? I'm not going to use names, but there's a couple out there. So you're sitting there in that low-cost carrier, and you're watching people come down the aisle, and your mind is going, yes, no, yes, no. So you can sit next to me. No, I don't want you to sit next to me. You ever experience that? We all do it. Of course we do. That's the unconscious mind kicking in. Because we're making these quick assumptions about data points that are just very, very minute, but we're making assumptions very quickly. Yes, that's your unconscious mind at play. And being a consciously inclusive leader, we want to manage that a little bit more proactively. So the question is not, do we have bias, but rather, which ones do we have? And that's really the big thing. Anyone here not have bias? Trick question, yeah. Anyone here not breathing? Yeah. Then you can say yes. But if you are human, you have bias. Okay, that stinks that we're wired that way. And by the way, we're wired that way for safety, for cave person times. A big woolly thing came to our cave ancestors' door, and our cave ancestors didn't have time to sit there and pontify and say, well, they have big teeth, but maybe they're herbivore. No, they had that whole fight or flight thing. Gather quick data, make a decision. Flight, they'll run out the back cave door, or fight, put up their fisticuffs, and beat up the safety thinking. So we're still wired that way. That's how our humans are. And so we need to make sure that we can kind of manage that 99.999996 so that we're not doing actions, saying things that maybe aren't being as inclusive as we'd like it.